Spotlight.
This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring a discussion on enhancing multi-faceted partnership between India and Paraguay. The participants are Professor Anshu Joshi, Strategic Analyst, and Kallol Bhattacharjee, Journalist.
Hello and welcome to Akashvani's Spotlight program. Today we are discussing India-Paraguay relationship, which came into focus with the ongoing visit of President Peña, who is right now in Mumbai. President Peña was welcomed by Prime Minister Modi on Monday in the Hyderabad House, where both leaders discussed potential for bilateral cooperation in areas like counterterrorism, cybersecurity, anti-narcotics, agriculture, critical minerals, digital cooperation, and many other platforms. To discuss various aspects of this ongoing visit, we have with us today Professor Anshu Joshi of JNU, who teaches Latin American Affairs in the Jawaharlal Nehru University's School of International Studies. I would start by asking Professor Joshi about why Paraguay is important today in 2025 for a country like India, which is one of the major economic powers in the world.
Kallol, thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts on this recent visit of the President of Paraguay to India. Being a part of Latin America, it's a significant trading partner of India, and we all know that how Latin America is of great importance, of great significance when it comes to developing strategic partnership with the Latin American countries. For past decade, our government has been trying to establish good connects and strategic partnership with most of the countries of Latin America. And more than that, Paraguay is also an important member of Mercosur, which is the trading bloc of Latin America. And the other members are Brazil, Argentina, and Uruguay. Being a neutral country, as in when I say that, we have to look at Brazil and Argentina from China's point of view as well, that how they incline towards China and the kind of partnership they have with China. So when it comes to establishing or taking the relationship with Mercosur to the next level, Paraguay seems to be that significant critical partner, and from that point of view it holds a great significance for India, not only bilaterally but also when we look from Mercosur's point of view. It's already an important trading partner, as I said, and the bilateral trade between India and Paraguay stood at 477 million USD in 2022 and 2023. There is like a window of great opportunities in different areas ranging from agrochemicals to critical minerals to agricultural products to automobile products to IT to technology and so on. So that is why when Paraguay's president is here, our Prime Minister is expressing his commitment both bilaterally as well as developing or taking the relationship with Mercosur to the next level in terms of all these critical areas.
In his welcome speech in Hyderabad House that was delivered yesterday, Prime Minister Modi referred to the fact that this particular visit has come at a time when India is actually looking for more and more international support in its fight against terrorism. And he, of course, acknowledged Paraguay's support in India's counter-terrorism campaign. I would urge you to explain for listeners how India's counter-terrorism campaign is shaping up, as President Peña is one of the first foreign leaders to visit India in the backdrop of what happened in Pahalgam in that ghastly terror attack of April 22nd, and thereafter the punitive action that Indian military forces took against Pakistan-based terror and the Pakistan military during the Operation Sindoor. If you could tell us a little bit about how Paraguay is also part of India's international campaign to corner Pakistan.
That's a very good question, and I must share with my listeners that Paraguay is one of those countries, especially from Latin America, who expressed their solidarity with India after the ghastly terror attack on Pahalgam on 22nd of April. The world knows how India has been facing this brunt of state-sponsored terrorism from Pakistan since 1947. Things took a different shape and color when 9/11 attack happened on United States of America, and from there we could see global war against terror was launched. India has been working with the other like-minded nations since then to fight against this menace of global terrorism, and for that it also seeks support from the various like-minded countries. Paraguay is one of those countries. Apart from Paraguay, we could see that how Panama and Brazil also extended their support with India after this Pahalgam attack, and especially when India executed its very precise, well-calculated and well-accomplished Operation Sindoor. So when now Paraguay's president is here, both the nations have expressed their commitment to overcome the menace of global terrorism. And apart from this one dimension of terrorism, both the countries have also expressed their unity in fighting against the challenges of cybercrime, organized crime, drug trafficking, narco-terrorism, and so on.
Let us now listen to what Prime Minister Modi had to say about terrorism and the attack in Pahalgam that took place on 22nd April in his welcome speech to President Peña.
आतंकवाद के खिलाफ लड़ाई में भारत और पैराग्वे कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर खड़े हैं। साइबर क्राइम, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड क्राइम, ड्रग ट्रैफिकिंग जैसी साझा चुनौतियों से लड़ने के लिए सहयोग की अपार संभावनाएं हैं।
Professor Joshi, we have generally dealt with countries of the Latin American region through, say, South Cooperation and, the group of 77 and etc., sometimes even through non-alignment. But this time we are engaging a country which is, significant and from the regional as well as the global point of view. But from the Indian point of view, our listeners might require a bit of introduction and a little elaboration on why Paraguay in 2025 and what India can achieve, especially since Paraguay is engaging India on a bilateral footing. So can you please explain for listeners, how Paraguay is significant for India in various ways from, say, economy and strategic perspective?
Paraguay reflects the face of Latin America. Apart from our engagement with big countries of Latin America, as in Brazil and Argentina, when we look at Paraguay, since 1961, we have amicable bilateral relations, diplomatic relations between the two nations. But it was in 2006 when for the first time, the embassy of Paraguay in India was officially opened. Since then, both the nations, we never looked back. And today we stand at a good, foothold when we talk about trade partnership specifically. The exports from India include motor vehicles, agrochemicals, auto parts, pharma products, which are sent to Paraguay. From Paraguay, we receive soya bean, sunflower oil, and critical minerals like iron, steel, aluminium. We know that how it is rich in other critical minerals and natural resources. Apart from that, we also know that how Paraguay, being a part of Mercosur, can help India in boosting its relationship with Mercosur. Both the governments have talked about this preferential trade agreement that is taking a good shape between Mercosur and India. And when we look at Mercosur, it is like the leading trade bloc of Latin America with the four important countries, Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay. So that's where India has identified Paraguay as that neutral member which can help India in maybe reaching to this good outcome of a preferential trade agreement. And also when we look from this tourism's point of view, from agricultural products point of view, from fighting against terrorism's point of view, there are shared interests, Kallol, and that's where Paraguay holds a great significance for India. And vis-a-vis, vice versa, when we look from Paraguay's point of view, India is a leading voice of Global South, and India keeps demanding leadership position for emerging economies, developing nations of Global South that come from Latin America, Asia and Africa. That's where Paraguay supports India, and it's a win-win situation wherein both the countries have shared interests and both are looking at that window of opportunities in all those significant areas.
Professor Joshi, one area that I would like to now raise before you is the issue of connectivity, because India is increasingly looking at projecting itself as a connectivity hub, be it for Southeast Asia, for West Asia, for aviation hub. For some of the leading aviation companies are coming to India. Indian airlines, various Indian airlines are purchasing large number of aircraft to reach out to the rest of the world. The question is, how far is Latin America, how far is Paraguay from India in terms of aviation connectivity? Do we have flights to Paraguay or even flights to other major countries in Latin America yet? And secondly, and perhaps also at the level of people-to-people level, what should be done to popularize the languages that are spoken in Latin America, namely namely Spanish and Portuguese? How popular are these two languages in India? If these two languages are popularized, then perhaps there will be greater people-to-people interest, at least from the Indian side. What do you have to say on that?
That's a very interesting question, and let me just share with our listeners that it was Treaty of Tordesillas, because of which either Spain or Portugal made these Latin American nations as their colonies, and because of that we could see that in Latin America Spanish and Portuguese are the most popular and most spoken languages. But when we look at India was a British colony, and that's why we could see the upper hand in terms of language of English here. So from languages point of view, from people to people connects point of view, as in only 600 Indians live in Paraguay, or from connectivities point of view, especially from the aviation sector, if we see Latin America is really far from India and we don't see direct flights, and reaching to these nations is a big challenge for Indians at present, and that's an area where the Latin American countries and India, they have to do a lot. So I see a lot of opportunities when we look in this particular area to boost people to people connect. Also, India is doing different kinds of initiatives with Latin American countries. Our soft power, as in be it our yoga or Ayurveda or our literature or spirituality, entertainment, our food, they all are very popular in Latin American nations, including Paraguay. But then at the end of the day, we see that still when we look from people to people connects point of view, a lot to be done. And again, I see a lot to be done in this area of aviation sector. So I hope that soon we might see some important announcements and developments in this particular area.
Now let us listen to what Prime Minister Modi had to say while welcoming President Peña in Hyderabad House yesterday as far as the various areas of cooperation that the two countries are looking at.
मेरा विश्वास है कि आपसी सहयोग से हम साझी समृद्धि का मार्ग प्रशस्त करेंगे। एक्सेलेंसी, हमारे पास आर्थिक सहयोग सहित डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी, क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स, ऊर्जा, कृषि, स्वास्थ्य, डिफेंस, रेलवे तथा स्पेस जैसे क्षेत्रों में सहयोग के नए अवसर हैं।
During his interaction with President Peña, Prime Minister Modi referred to agriculture as one of the key areas where India and Paraguay are expected to energize their cooperation. I want to raise the area of agriculture, especially in the case of Paraguay, because we all know that most of the Latin American countries are very rich in agriculture resources, be it Argentina, Brazil, or even Colombia. They are rich in other natural resources like hydrocarbon, like when it comes to Venezuela. But Paraguay, particular interest because it produces far more agricultural product compared to its land, or rather its population. And that has drawn the interest of the Indian side. I want to ask you, Professor Joshi, how is agriculture expected to shape up as an area of potential bilateral collaboration between India and Paraguay?
Kallol, when bilaterally we see, and like specifically if I take a look at India's imports from Paraguay, most of the imports include agricultural products, as in soya oil is like it makes 94% of imports. Then we get sunflower oil from Paraguay. We also get wood, leather, and our imports of soya and sunflower oil are expected to increase in the coming years, as in we need more edible oil in India. And from that point of view, we also know the capacity and production of Paraguay of agricultural products, and that's where we see a very good scope of boosting our existing bilateral relationship, our trading partnership in this particular area.
Thank you so much, Professor Joshi. It's been an honor and a privilege to talk to you. And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You were listening to a discussion on enhancing multifaceted partnership between India and Paraguay. The participants were Professor Anshu Joshi, Strategic Analyst, and Kallol Bhattacharjee, Journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani.
Spotlight.